Hello, world of internet. This is the Fitness Reborn podcast. My name is Sean from Renaissance Fitness Personal Training, where we put movement ahead of workouts. And my guest today is Ari Tulla. Did I say that correctly?
That's perfect.
Ari Tulla. All right, gotcha. Ari Tulla. Ari is a multi-sport athlete, a serial entrepreneur, a venture capitalist, nutrition advocate. He is the founder of the company Elo and BetterDoctor, and is the CEO of Quest Analytics here. So like I was telling Ari before the broadcast here is that's quite an impressive resume. I looked it over quite a bit, and it looks like it does, every company does something a little bit different, but it's all kind of going channeled down the same path here. So I'm interested in digging into that and finding out who Ari Tulla is. And it sounds all just very exciting here. So Ari, again, thanks very much for coming on.
Great to be here.
Yeah, thank you. And so, Ari, I like to start every show off with just some background information here, so we have some context in which we are speaking. Because I know stuff about you, but maybe people listening don't really know you, and so I'd like to kind of dig into that a little bit here. So, as far as background is concerned, so I know you're currently located in San Francisco here. So, but where did you start out? Where were you born, and then how did you end up in San Francisco?
Yeah, I'm born in northern Finland, the small country in Europe that recently joined NATO. So, hey, Finland! And
recently left or joined NATO?
We joined NATO a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
So another 1,000 miles of border with our friend the Russians. So interesting timing in that perspective. But yeah, Finland is in the northern Finland at the same level as Anchorage, Alaska. So think about in the winter, the sun doesn't go up at all. And in the summer, the sun doesn't go down at all. So very interesting bipolar country to live in. And I spent my youth, I did two things. I played hockey as any good Finn should, and then I dabbled with computers. And I never became an NHL player. Few of my teammates went to play, and they became pretty good. And instead, I became an entrepreneur at a pretty young age already. So I was building video games in the 90s. Late 90s, I ended up in a first startup. We built websites for big companies in the Web 1.0. Then I spent about a decade almost in the mobile side. So I was working at a small Finnish company called Nokia that was doing smartphones early before iPhone and Android. And I was in a team that built the first smartphone, N95, first phone with video, images, email, websites. And then last 12 years, I've been working in healthcare. So I got dragged into a different field completely because of family health issues. And it's been pretty amazing to be able to build a few companies in the space of healthcare in the US. And I've been in the Bay Area here for 15 years now. So it's been really interesting to follow the ups and downs of the tech and to be part of kind of the mobile revolution, and now to be closely part of the AI revolution. It will be kind of changing all of our lives.
Was it your intention all along to kind of follow this tech path? And I heard you got into computers, you said, when you were very young. So that kind of just like sparked something in you and say, oh, okay, well, this is kind of the direction I want to take.
It's just, life is unpredictable. You follow where it points you. And I was super lucky as a kid. My father, he was a research scientist, and he got a computer 80s already, first PC, the 086 PC with two color screens and less memory than you have in a calculator today. And I got his old computer when he got a new one, and you couldn't really do much more with it than maybe do like early Excel sheets on a Lotus Notes, and and then maybe you could play games. And I picked the latter as a kid, and then I was connected to the web very early. So my father was affiliated to University of Oulu, my hometown university, and they connected to the internet, very, very early, in early 90s already. And then I basically wanted to play with the first things that happened there. There was no email yet. There was really no web browser, so the website www wasn't existing yet. So you could communicate in different ways, like IRC, kind of like a rudimentary WhatsApp in a way. And then I started to build games and play games in the early web. And this was something that you had to call with the modem. You can remember the modem sound, some of you. And but then I just was able to kind of get to do something pretty early when most people had no idea what it is. And then that led me into the tech world. And I mean, that's the same story in a way for a lot of entrepreneurs, that you are lucky to be early on something, and then you have accumulated understanding of things in a way most people don't have yet. And that's what I try to do always now in my life when I think about healthcare as well. I'm a big believer in the food as medicine idea, that I got kind of acquainted by my wife having health issues, that we were able to heal with food and nutrition. So it's always about, do you know something that most people don't know, or do you believe in something that most people don't believe in? And if that is true, then you have an upper hand, at least for a moment.
Right. But at some point, you have to kind of validate what you believe in. Like, it's one thing to be contrarian, but then you have to be contrarian. You have to be correct. And that's really kind of where things really start to build.
Well, this is a good point, because I've been thinking about it. I was way early on the gaming. The gaming was, we had thousands of people playing these games, and now we have billions of people. I was building the first mobile games in the world when we had a few people dabbling with them. Now I think 4 billion people play games on mobile. Mobile gaming is bigger than music and film and music, books together.
Well,
that's insane.
If my son is any indication, that's definitely true.
It's a fact of life. But at the same time, then I was working on this. I was working on the mobile devices, smartphones early, and Nokia was, when I was there, Nokia was the most valuable company in the world. We were nominated to be the most innovative company back to back, like, I don't know, 5-10 years. And then we completely lost the mojo when Android and iPhone came into fray. So sometimes, you can be right, but if you are in the wrong time, it doesn't really help. So it's a really interesting conundrum when you build something new. Most times you fail. Most times you don't have the right timing, and sometimes you get lucky and you have the right timing. And I feel that with my latest company, Elo, we are in the right time finally, and I feel really blessed to be, kind of lucky to be working on something that seems to be resonating to people.
So talk to us about Elo. So I did, like I said, I looked at when your information was sent to me by your representative. I looked at all the companies that were affiliated with you, either one way or the other. Elo was is the most current one, right? It's the most current one that you're involved with. Okay, so Elo, I did look it up down. Now, am I correct in thinking it's a nutritional supplement company that kind of paired up with an artificial intelligence kind of angle? Did I interpret that correctly?
I think you have a correct idea. So what we do at Elo, we are trying to build a new world that is making your nutrition, think about your supplements, your powders, your food, your groceries, smart. I mean, that may sound like a silly idea. Well, I coined the idea, so it might be silly today. I hope it's not silly in 10 years' time. So you already have at home, you have a smartphone. You have maybe a smart car like Tesla. Maybe you have a smart watch like Apple Watch or whatever. Maybe you have, both smart home devices like, automatic garage door opener, getting your lights on and off. Maybe you have a Nest thermostat, a smart thermostat. So what is making these things smart? I've been involved in that smart concept for many years, and I always been thinking, like, why can't we make everything around us smarter? Why can't food and nutrition be smart as well? So what it means to us, and what it means in my mind at least, is that every product that you are buying from Elo are personalized to you. So they're made for you, made to order. We don't have a warehouse full of stuff. We made every product for you with your name on top. It's also precise. It's based on the latest science. It's product that we formulate based on the real facts about you, data from your body. And then thirdly, it's also proactive. Proactive means that it gets better over time. And if you think about, like, you probably know people who have Tesla. Maybe you have one yourself. What people
No.
say the first, they say that it's awesome because when I go to the car, I don't need to have a key. My phone is the key. So I just open the door, I go in, and it knows it's my phone, not my wife's phone. So the seat moves automatically, the steering wheel moves automatically, the mirrors move automatically to my height. And then, of course, it has my music playing immediately. It becomes my style of, even the driving style for me and my wife is different. So the car is different for me and for her. We use the same car. That's pretty cool. I mean, kind of the same thing with the Nest thermostat. You walk into a home, and you have the Nest. If you go out for a few days and nobody's at home, it will cool off the house automatically, and you're gonna save money. That's smart, right? So we're trying to build those same ideas into Elo. And I think the first products we have today, we have two products live, and we have many more coming. The first one we launched is a supplements coming in a daily packet based on your blood biomarker test. So you start by doing a blood test. You prick your finger, you send the blood into our lab. We test the blood about 15 biomarkers, and then you can get the right supplements that are helping to fill your nutrient gaps. Most of us have gaps that we don't know of. And then we are pairing you with the dietitian that you can communicate about the results. And you can then have an app that you can talk to your dietitian 24/7 if you want. So that's called Smart Supplements. And the new product we just got out is Smart Protein or Smart Recovery Mix. It basically is the same idea, but we don't need to do a blood test. You can do it if you want. But we are taking data from your wearable devices like Apple Watch or Oura Ring or Whoop or whatnot. And then we formulate the product that is optimized for your recovery. And every month the product will get better, be more optimized for you, depending what you have done. So we're tracking the recovery based on these devices. So that's kind of the beginning where we start from. And there are many, many new things coming in the coming years.
Well, still, it seems that's a huge undertaking because not only you're working with blood work, artificial intelligence, and you're doing constant updates too, kind of like you said, an Apple Watch or a smartphone. It's a lot to take on, and this is just the beginning of things, right?
Yeah, I think some things are, when you look outside in, sometimes you think that certain things are difficult. And today, when we have a new world where it's actually not that difficult to build certain things. Some things that you may think are really, really hard to do, they might not be that difficult. But some other things are really, really hard to do. Like in our problem today, if you think about a company like Elo, of course, we spent many years now building the AI system. We built a platform. We have a electronic health record management system. We are like a hospital from the security perspective. A lot of things had to be built to make it work. But we had done that before in our previous companies already, so not that difficult for us. Maybe for somebody starting from zero would be very difficult to do. But what is really difficult is to get people to do a finger prick at home, for example. We have many, many people who just can't do a hole in the finger with a lancet, and they are afraid of it. So that's something that we are now tackling. Like, how do we help people to be able to prick their finger better? How do we help people to connect? Somebody might have for example, like a Polar smartwatch. So how do you connect that watch into Elo? Those are kind of the things we now struggle because people have never done this before, and it's a lot about changing behavior, and that is
Mm,
difficult, as you well know.
right, right. Yeah, it's the behavioral change aspect of working with people. That's the hardest thing of all.
Totally.
So, so you got Elo here. So Quest Analytics, that you were the CEO of Quest Analytics here. Um, did that tie into Elo here, or is that something completely separate?
Yeah, good question. So about over 20 years ago, my wife had a thyroid tumor. Out of nowhere, she had a big lump on her neck, and
Mm,
then diagnosis says that there's a tumor that has to be taken out, and it's taken out, and it's very close to the thyroid, so the thyroid partially has to be removed, and that led into autoimmune diseases, hormonal imbalances, many of these unknowns we don't really know about what to do. And the verdict from the doctors was that not life threatening, you can live normal life, but you need to be medicated in order to function normally, and those medications made it impossible to get pregnant. So it's kind of tough. You find your love of life, and then suddenly you get a verdict that you can never have a family. So we spent about a decade of trying to find a way to overcome that issue. Used Western and Eastern medicine, and in the end we realized that you can use diet and nutrition to help the body heal itself. What I mean by that is that if you have an autoimmune disease, you often are fueling the inflammation in your body by the wrong diet. So we had to cut away all the grains, we cut away meat mainly, we cut away all the added sugar, and over time she was able to help her body heal itself. So I became a big believer of this idea of food as medicine then. Then we were moving to US at the same time, and then we started to try to get pregnant. We had to use IVF, and as people who have done IVF, it's very expensive and difficult. We did that, and then we were super unlucky that our first son died out of completely unrelated reason. That was the time when I went from working on the games and other stuff into working in healthcare, and we had been working with more than 50 different doctors in the US to be able to get where we were. And then something like this happens, and it was partially I don't blame any doctors, but it could probably have been prevented by better care. And I decided to build a company called BetterDoctor to help people find doctors, because when you are sick, you are at your weakest, and everybody listening, they know how difficult it is to find a doctor. It's one of the most difficult things. You can have access to thousands of different doctors. You don't know who are good, who are bad. You don't even know how to evaluate them. You buy a new toaster, you go to Amazon, it has 15,000 reviews. You can see videos, you can learn everything about the toaster, and you definitely get a good toaster. But then you are, going to a doctor office, and they're going to open your cavity, your chest cavity for heart surgery, and you have one Yelp review. You have no idea if they are good or bad, if they are killing people left and right. So I wanted to build a company to put all that data together in one place, so people can find it and find the doctor that can help them at the right time. And over the 6-7 years we built the company, we were helping millions of people a year. I think 20 million people altogether found a doctor with us, and we sold the company to private equity. And then I took ownership of a new company called Quest Analytics that took BetterDoctor, the doctor finder company, and then we had a couple of the companies we put together into a pretty big hundreds of people business. And what we did in the end was really powerful. We built a system that is helping to build doctor networks. So we took all the data from BetterDoctor, we took all the data from Quest, we had this other company we bought. We basically built a platform that is used now by your health insurance company, your hospital, the government, your state, to build the doctor network to access today. So today, 200 million people are accessing the doctor networks built by the Quest tools. Nobody knows our name because we are behind the scenes, but it's a pretty interesting thing that I started the company with the hope to help million people find a doctor, and today most of us in America are finding a doctor because of we are helping to build better networks.
So when you said it's difficult to find a good doctor, I don't disagree. I think I got lucky enough with my personal doctor that I think he's a good doctor, one, and I like him personally. So I think I just kind of I just hit the jackpot right there. Now, did you mean that it's just kind of hard to filter out through because of an overcrowded industry of who's really a good one to turn to, or is it just a kind of a larger systemic question of quality care in the healthcare system?
Well, I think you are referring probably to the PCP, a primary care doctor that you work with, and
Right.
I mean, if you have, I don't know if you have had any health issues that are when you get cancer, when you get chronic condition, then your PCP is not going to really. They can be there part of the care pathway, but they're not going to be the caregiver for you. They're going to be a specialist, and many of them. In my wife's case, we had like 20 different type of doctors that we worked with. So it gets awfully complicated quickly. Who is owning you? Who is working with you to make a decision? Are you making a decision yourself on things you have no idea of? So that's what happens with healthcare. And we all get sick. We all die in the end. So it's not happening today, but in some time in your life, you will be facing healthcare, and you're either going to die or then you're going to survive, or maybe you can extend your life for a few years. And that happens for everybody. So it's not like, it's a one-off case. And when that happens, today we want to be conscious consumers. Like I said, we want to go to Amazon, we want to look at reviews, we want to read about where do we spend our money, and who do we get the care from. And today in healthcare, we don't really have a place that you can go to find information about, like, who is the best surgeon now for heart transplant, who is the best surgeon for knee replacement, who is the best doctor for your ACL surgery, for example. Like, how do you evaluate? Like, are you asking your primary care doctor who plays golf with the 5 other doctors, and they're going to refer those doctors who they play golf with? Are those the best doctors for you? Like, how do you know? There's no transparency today. So at BetterDoctor, we were the first company ever to, for example, get access to claims data and quality of care outcome data. And we collected all the consumer feedback from every site into one. So we actually knew that there are 5 doctors in your city who are doing knee operations, or they are orthopedic surgeons focused on knee. We knew how many of them have done ACL surgeries, how many of them have done knee replacements. Do you want to get the doctor in your city who has done 1 knee replacement, or the one who has done 400? Which do you pick? I mean, it's an easy question, right? So, but that data is still today not available publicly. It is kind of available behind the scenes a little bit, but that was the hope we had at BetterDoctor. Can we make that data available to everybody so you can make a decision yourself? You don't need to let other people make decisions for yourself.
Right. Maybe you answered this question earlier on, but I think I'll answer it anyway. So, or I'll ask it anyway. So this going back to BetterDoctors is a huge network where you're compiling different doctors in your area, and you have a rating system, and you're looking for quality of care. How do you get the physicians to really go along with that? Do they have to do it voluntarily? Or I was just curious, do they have to do it voluntarily, or are they conscripted into it through some way? I'm just kind of curious, because that's just like, I kind of tend to know how doctors tend to be about people, kind of evaluating them, and just kind of like, people who are, rating their skills, and they can be kind of touchy about that. So how did you get them to go along with it?
Well, we did it 2 ways. So we created the database of all the doctors in the country, 1.1 million. Mm-hmm. And we also added then later different ancillary care providers, like nurse practitioners. We added counselors, therapists, and so forth. I think even like chiropractors and others in the end. So we had like about 2.8 million providers listed. And then we were trying to collect data. Of course, not for everybody. We can find enough data to be able to rate them. And then we gave them opportunity to claim their profile and add information. They couldn't change, of course, the rating, but they could change the phone number and address and website and add photos and bios and whatever. So make it more rich. Kind of same modality you have on like Google. If you Google search today a local business, you're going to find an address, you're going to find photos. That is updated by the local business. And if you think about like Yelp, for example, if you go to Yelp, if you have photos and videos, whatever, those are added by the business themselves. But in our case, you couldn't pay to play. You couldn't pay to be at the top. That was the decision we made in the beginning.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. So BetterDoctor. All right. So you came to the U.S. You got involved with Silicon Valley, and then so if I'm getting the timeline right, this health scare that you have with your wife, kind of, you took it from going into being primarily into tech and video games and cell phones and that sort of thing here, and then you transitioned it into healthcare. So, I mean, similar along the lines here, but again, and this is becoming a growing trend now where we see this kind of synthesis of technology and healthcare, or fitness, if you want to prefer that term, fitness being merged into one here. So, was that really the turning point then? Is that, well, you got your wife got sick here, and so now you started to focus all your energy in improving the healthcare system?
I mean, partially yes, but the kind of the last straw was when our son died. So
Hmm.
I that was a big awakening for us that this is, I mean, in the end in the life, what matters, family matters and your health matters. If you don't have those two, I mean, I don't think really life is very valuable. Um, so I decided to kind of completely focus out of the tech into healthcare and spend next 30 years on investing in healthcare and building companies that can have an impact in people's lives. And my wife also, she went from working a corporate career to in the end start a consulting company working with Marie Kondo on the KonMari consulting side. So helping people one on one to own only the things that they really want to own in their life. So it's been big big shift in our
Right.
family. We sold our houses and our property and built a small fund. It's the Do Good Ventures that I'm wearing a hat on, and we invest in startups. Have done it for now for almost 12 years, and we are involved in 55 companies today as an investor.
Gotcha, gotcha. Is that where you spend most of your time now, is working in venture capitalism?
Well, I mean, we are just a very kind of angel, early money in a very very early stage of the company, and we are small investor. We are also a little bit involved in a couple bigger funds that are investing them, millions of dollars. But we invest like a small checks in the very beginning, and it's more like for us to uh, be able to involve with really interesting people and be able to help the companies in a very early stage. I built a 6 business from the ground up myself over the years, and I have some perspective on how to do it. And if I can help people to succeed, I'm always happy to try to do that.
Gotcha. So I want to go back to what you said earlier is about as food as medicine. Now, that's not a new concept. We've been hearing that for a while now. Um, and I'm always interested to hear what every individual's different take on that really is, because if you really want to get down to it, that goes back centuries. Like, food is medicine. People will quote, I think it was Hippocrates who said that,
Yep.
something like that. Okay, so it's been around for a minute here. So, but now I think, at least in the United States, it's starting to really sort of get traction. It seems like, just based on what I'm hearing from you and based on the other people that I've spoken to, this idea is really starting to come into its own here. So when we talk about using food as medicine, like, you can actually cure yourself of, like, pretty devastating diseases potentially. You can reverse the effects from it. Um, Now that's quite a leap of faith when you kind of go into it. Like you said, when you go to see a doctor and you get diagnosed with some tumor that's on some that's on your thyroid or some other important part of your body, and you're running the risk of having a part of that or the entire thing surgically removed. And I think most people probably, because they trust their doctors, they want to trust their doctors. They say, well, this person's a qualified professional. They went to school. They've done maybe 400 procedures, what have you. Been in the game 20, 30 years. They want to trust you. I mean, they want to trust. And we're bred and we're taught to trust physicians because they are professionals, right? Um, so when you decide to say, no, I'm not going along with that, I am going to find some other alternative means that has not been quite so validated by the healthcare industry, like saying using food and food only to try to reverse the effects of my disease. Um, you really kind of feel like you're going out on a bit of a limb, do you not?
Again, I think there's a big question, and let's take a maybe step back and frame it a bit. Um, in our case, we went ahead and we got uh, surgery that removed the tumor, and if we would not have done that, my wife would be dead today. Like,
Okay.
so I mean, I'm not saying that you want to go and try to treat a cancer at the stage 2 or 3 or 4 with choosing or some supplements. That's a silly, insane stuff that will kill you in the end. And we have many, many examples of, if you go to the graveyard and, many people are trying to do some stuff that is so silly. The modern medicine is quite good at treating us when we are very sick. We have the mortality rate for many cancers is dropping to 0. We are inventing amazing medications every day. I'm a science-based kind of guy. I mean, I'm a technologist by heart, and I have nothing against the modern medicine. What I'm against is that today, if you frame this from the money perspective, that's a good framing beginning. How do you evaluate a healthcare system? What are the metrics? Like we've been talking about this for the last 20 years in the US. What is, like, are we good or are we bad? Do we want to have everybody covered that they can get healthcare or not? These are big decisions we've been debating in the political forums for a long time. And people have different opinions. Some people say, fuck it, we don't need to get any care. And some people say, let's care everybody. That's a different opinion. But if you think about the totality, we are spending today almost twice as much money per person in the US in healthcare than the second most spending country in the world. That's, by the way, Norway. Twice per person, double. We are now at around 50 in the countries that are living the longest. Isn't it a good measurement of how much we spend per person and how long we live? And not only how long we live, but how many healthy years we have to live. We have 10 less healthy years today in the US than they have in Japan, for example. How can it be? Like, is that cool? Like, we have 10 less years to live on this earth today on average than the Japanese people have. How much would you pay when you are 80 years old to get 10 healthy years more? I think you could spend all your money and then some. So that's kind of one measurement I always think about, like, okay, what is the life expectancy of healthy years? And then how much we spend? And today we are completely ass backward in the US. We spend almost all the money we spend today on the last 2 years of your life. We are trying to keep people healthy, and it's great that we are able to, when you get the cancer, when you are almost dead, we can kind of get you back to alive, and you can get maybe 2 more years.
Right.
We spend no money on preventing the disease in the first place. Today, I mean, I don't know if everybody knows this, but 90% of American adults are sick metabolically. We have a high insulin resistance. We have we are pre-diabetic. We have heart issues that are going to happen soon. Half the people are going to be diabetic, type 2 diabetic, in 20 years from now if we don't do anything. And I don't think we have the money to pay for the care. So it will be very unfortunate if you get sick in 20 years and we don't have the money to pay for that. And if you don't have the money to pay for it, government can't take care of you. So you're going to basically end up dying. And we see that all day long in cities when you have people with really thick legs that are looking like they're dying, the legs. Those are the people who are type 2 diabetics who haven't gotten the care, and they're going to die in the next year or so. So that's kind of the sadness about this. We have a great system to take care of people who are sick, but we are really, really bad at taking care of people who are not yet sick. And that's where the food as medicine comes to play. If you are actually eating the right nutrition, right food, you're not going to get sick. You're not going to get obese. You're not going to get type 2 diabetes. You're not going to get heart disease. And you're likely not going to get the cancer. And likely you won't get Alzheimer's or dementia that is almost completely related to food as well. So that's kind of my thesis, is that can we help people a bit earlier? And that's why we do blood testing, for example, at Elo, to be able to give you a warning. I'm really against the healthcare system in one topic, which is we have these lines on the map. Like, for example, when you have your LDL or your cholesterol is certain level, or your A1C, the diabetes marker. Once you get over this threshold, you are red and you are medicated. Maybe you were 5 years on yellow and nobody told you anything about it. That's what we are trying to do at Elo. We are trying to give you a warning light. When you're at yellow, you can easily do something about it and not to get to red. Once you get to red, you are chronically sick forever, and you're going to be medicated with insulin, with Lipitor, with many different medications. And we are, of course, we know the pharma is really good, lobbying people to and doctors to give you medications, being opioids or being other chronic condition medicines. So that's the challenge, in my opinion, that food as medicine is about preventing you getting sick in the first place.
Right.
It's not about
Right.
curing the cancer.
Right. Well, no. I mean, I agree that the food is a big part of. Obviously, it's a big part of how healthy you are, and I do subscribe to the idea of food being medicine. I was just thinking, like, for the average person, who maybe doesn't make a deep study of health and nutrition very much, and then gets confronted with a cancer diagnosis, and then says that, well, maybe there's some other way. I mean, that's one, that's very possible, and two, that's a very brave person to kind of go out on a limb like that and really sort of um, do that sort of thing. But I think what the position you take is probably the right one. It's like you are combining the modern medicine with the nutritional education as well here too. I think that's probably the best way you could probably take care of yourself because, from my understanding, doctors don't get very much education about nutrition.
Yeah, about 4 hours.
Yeah,
in 10 years or whatever, 8 years, they go to med school and undergrad.
right,
But that's a
right.
problem, and I think
Hmm.
that is the one thing we need to change. And there are many doctors that are having a podcast like you, who have millions of people listening, and they are talking about holistically taking care of the person. And they're not talking about the woo-woo of doing something silly, but they're talking about combining the science of nutrition with the science of medicine and building a one holistic approach. And I hope that will become the way we also educate people in the med school, because if you don't learn anything about the other side, it will feel scary for the doctors. And of course, they are. I mean, doctors are very smart. I mean, it's not
Hmm.
easy to become a doctor first place, and they are very proud about what they do, like you already referred to. I mean, if I'm rating you as a doctor, many of them are gonna tell me that what the hell are you doing? Like that's silly. But I think we have to change that, and but it's not only about that. It's also about changing the perception we have as people on nutrition and food. I mean, we can't tell somebody else to take a responsibility of us. We have to take a responsibility of ourselves and our health. And that's somehow forgotten at times. Like we can't be a nanny state, or there's no nanny state that is making it easy for you to eat the right food. You eat whatever you want, and it's your decision. But when you are eating food that will get you sick and you're going to cost the society millions of dollars, is that
Hmm.
fair? I don't think it's fair.
No, I would agree. It's not. It's not very fair. And you're right. I mean, the doctors, because I've spoken to quite a few of them. There's a growing number that are kind of defecting from this healthcare system and are running. If not defecting, then they are kind of, maybe pulling back just a little bit, but doing something, maybe something of what we're doing right now, and they're at least trying to, on their own time, try to get some sort of better word out there. Because I think a lot of them, and I don't mean to demonize doctors. I know it kind of sounds like I do on this program, but I'm not. I believe in doctors. I believe in modern medicine, but I think a lot of them feel probably the same amount of frustration that the patients feel. Like they just can't move very, very well. They can't make the recommendations that they want to make.
And it's a tough world, because if you are a doctor, we often forget the fact that there's this uh, big looming threat all the time called malpractice.
Hmm.
Malpractice means that if
Right.
I go and do something different than the guidebook or the manual tells me to do, then I'm on my own. I'm taking a risk. And if something then goes wrong, then if I'm the consumer or the patient, I can then file a case against the doctor. And that is really, I think, inhibiting a lot of the innovation, or going off the script type of stuff. And it's unfortunate in a way. It's great we have the kind of the care manual and the way to do things, but sometimes they can be outdated. The care manual, it still says today in many cases that type 2 diabetes is a chronic condition that you cannot reverse. It is irreversible condition. How can it be that there are now companies and coaches and holistic care providers who are reversing type 2 diabetes every day, in number of thousands of people a month. How can it be? Like, we have medical book says that you can't reverse it, and how can it be done to thousands of people? You probably know somebody yourself that has been, reversing it themselves. So that to me is like a bit bizarre that, the medical science or the healthcare science can be kind of slow to adopt if a new norm comes into fray.
So we talked about a lot here too, and so you touched on earlier about getting the right foods here. So I mean, I'm kind of curious, what's your idea of the right foods? Because a lot of the foods that you just listed are ones that I eat myself. I think I'm an otherwise pretty healthy person here. I don't do any of the obvious bad stuff that you should stay away of. But my blood work tends to come back pretty good here. I mean, I'm also very active, and my dietary habits have changed within the last year too. I did go vegan quite a bit, but then I decided, no, I kind of want to, because I'm getting older here. I'm 40 years old. I'm getting older. I know that my risk of losing muscle is significant at this point. So sarcopenia for me is a big thing, and I really want to maintain my musculoskeletal system as much as I possibly can as I continue to age. So I went back to eating meat just for the sake it's like I can continue to get that healthy, appropriate amount of protein. And you can do it as a vegan too. It's just much harder and much more expensive. So I just want to know what your idea is of like what is getting in the right amount of foods.
Yeah, good question. And I'm a big believer in this idea that if the nutrition would be smart, you don't need to follow a diet. You could follow and eat the food that you like and that tastes good for you and makes you feel good. But how to do it is another question. So if you think about and maybe I talk about myself. I'm not going to talk about maybe more broadly, but I try to follow the thesis that I believe in. So as of today, it's 9 a.m. I haven't eaten anything except I had a glass of water. So I'm doing intermittent fasting on many days if I don't train in the morning. And I'm going to eat at 11 or noon. I'm going to do a salad with some protein. It could be, for me, it could be tofu, it could be salmon or something like that. If I do train in the morning, I do eat a protein shake. I use the Elo protein together with blueberries, maybe some high fat yogurt, and then like berries and things like that, and avocado. So very low glycemic, low carbohydrate breakfast. Or if I don't do that, then I do an omelette with or scramble with spinach. So again, low glycemic. So I don't increase my blood sugar in the morning, or I stay fasted. That has a huge impact on my appetite and the way I eat rest of the day. And then I don't really snack at all. So I try to eat like 3 times a day or 2 times a day, and I don't snack at all. And I don't really worry about the dinner. I eat anything for dinner because you can have one meal a day that you really do whatever you want. But I don't do the dinner too late. I never do dinner after 7:30. So, and then after 7:30, I never eat anything. When I go sleep again in a slightly fasted state, and then I wake up in the morning and I either fast more or I have the breakfast. And that is, I think, the key for longevity in a way, that you are letting your body to be hungry. Many of us, we eat all the time. We are snacking with protein bars or whatever we do, and that makes you sick. That is the problem, that you are then, if you take protein 5 to 10 times a day, you will likely be sick before you are 70. And because your body is turning on the growth factor in your body every time you have protein. And if you do it too often, it's not only muscles growing, but can be also other things like tumors and other things growing in your body. And I try to avoid, bad oils. I try to avoid, any added sugar. I eat pretty low sugar type of diet or low carb type of diet. I'm not in a keto. Sometimes I'm a keto. I've been a vegan for a long time. I was a pescatarian for a long time, but I don't really think that you have to be like a limiting factor like that. For me, it's more about, my values. Do I want to support, animal products in a certain way? I rather eat, venison meat that I hunt myself That's more like my game. But I mean, it's simple. I mean, I keep it simple. I eat the same thing every morning, every lunch almost, and then the dinners are fun time.
Yeah, I think that's probably about the right way to do it. It's just kind of keeping it simple and not necessarily just I think that dieting is probably the wrong way to go in so many different ways here. So if you can, the central message here, if you can just kind of be more considerate about what you're eating and less about following a certain diet plan, it's probably, although the intermittent fasting thing, I've done that too, and I kind of still do it. I mean, because I really don't, most days I really don't eat anything until maybe about 10, 11 in the morning. I work out every morning.
Yep.
And so a lot of times I'm working out on a fasted stomach. I stop eating around 7:30, something like that. So usually, maybe sometimes a little closer to 8. And I don't eat anything, and then I get up, I have coffee, and then I go to the gym, and I'm there for 45 minutes, an hour, and I come back, and by the time I actually eat anything, it's maybe 12, 13 hours on.
Yep.
So, and that works for me. It does. I've known some people they really can't do that. They go to the gym like that, and they just feel completely drained of energy.
Yep.
And they can't really do much of anything. I think actually there's an adjustment period that you have to actually allow for it. But that works for me, and I think it's kind of keeping me even keel.
And I love the point about you're 100% right. People are different. We need to follow how we feel.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I love the point about the protein intake. When you are 40 or older, building muscle gets very difficult after 50 plus, new muscle.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of better build the muscle until you are 50, and then I hope to maintain it. And this really applies even more to women. If you are pre-menopause and you don't have muscle, it will be very difficult to build the muscle later. And I think almost all the women are taking too little protein today. They're a bit too careful about it. And adding a protein product or adding more protein into your diet will likely be a good idea. And that's what I've been talking about. My mom, for example, is 74. She's been going to gym like crazy for the last 20 years, but she started a bit late. She started when she was over 50. And I would have really loved to see her started earlier. And so I myself, I compete still in sports, and I compete in like rock climbing, for example. And I'm 45, and I think really growing power and growing muscle is very difficult already. You can see the difference compared to 20 years ago. I still have the same power roughly, but I train a lot. I train 10 hours a week on rock climbing, and that's about the max I can do. And I try to be fueling really effectively with protein at the right time myself. But it's a difficult thing because nutrition is so complicated. And every day you read a news article about, eggs are bad, eggs are good, eggs are bad again. Chocolate is bad, chocolate is good. Never have dark chocolate. It's just a whiplash, and it's very difficult to navigate the world.
Yeah, it really is. Have you found that the way that you eat and the way that you train, or let's just talk about your nutrition, has it as an athlete, has it aided you, or has it kept you being able to be active in the way you are? Because rock climbing, I tried rock climbing a couple times. Not easy to do. It takes a lot of strength to climb rocks. It takes a lot of strength to climb anything. Have you found that your nutritional guidelines have helped you?
I think the key, and you do this for a living, and you know that more about this than I do probably. But I found it that why people take anabolic steroids, for example, when they play something like baseball. I mean, you don't really need insane amount of muscle or power to hit the ball. But then, you're going to hit the ball every day because they play so many games. So why they do steroids is that they want to recover faster. And for me, I mean, I don't take steroids, but the point is that I'm trying to eat food that is keeping my body very lean and clean in a sense of inflammation. So when you have kind of like your muscles are hurting, there's always inflammation happening in your body. And if you can keep the inflammation low, you will actually recover faster. That's why you're gonna see, the NBA players. They are, big dudes, a big woman. They're gonna go into a cold bath right after the game to lower the inflammation in the joints and stuff like that. And that has made them. It made it possible to play games more often. And they play, I think, too many games as well. But same with me. I try to be at this age. I focus more on recovery almost than I do on the training itself. Of course, you want to train very effectively and not to spend like 2 hours doing stuff, but like 1 hour very effective training with the coach. And then you eat well and you recover faster. You can train more. And that to me was the aha moment, I think. I played hockey for my youth, and I trained twice a day when I was like 17, 18 years old. And then you can do it as a kid because you are so moldable. But when you get older, you really have to be thoughtful about the recovery. And that was a key. So I recover better today than I recovered 20 years ago. I'm roughly the same level as I was 20 years ago. So I feel pretty good about it.
Right. Yeah. I like the fact that you mentioned the cold therapy, because I do the cold shower thing. I will admit that I got on it at a time when it started to become kind of fashionable to get on it. I was like, oh, that sounds cool. That sounds like a new kind of challenge that I could, get into to see if I can handle it. I've been doing it for a while now. I'm a little bit more reasonable about it now. I kind of like mix the hot and cold showers together. So maybe I'll start with hot, just kind of get used to it, and then I'll turn it off, and then I'll blast myself with the cold water, or vice versa. I'm a little less hardcore about it than I was, but yeah, you're right. I think the recovery, the emphasis on recovery is a big deal, because when I go, I don't really kill myself in the gym anymore than I used to. I still go pretty hard. Um, just today I was doing kind of the Olympic overhead presses. It was a finale. I did it for maybe 3-4 sets and maybe 2 reps at a time at the most. I increased the weight once, but not insanely. And then I decided, you know what, I'm done. I feel good. And so I left, and then I got in the shower, and I feel okay. And I kind of made this point earlier in another show. Is like, well, if you're hurting yourself and feeling sore after every gym session, you are really doing something wrong. Because that's not the way you should be living.
Yeah, and I think I was laughing a bit because the cold and the hot. I think it's probably invented in Finland back in the days, because we the only invention we have from Finland is the sauna. That's the only word that people use in America. That's a Finnish word. I mean, of course, we also have Santa Claus, but that's another story. We can debate about it.
I didn't know that part.
Yeah, but the sauna is the invention that really came from there. We have 5 million people. We have 3 million saunas in Finland. We have more saunas than cars. Think about it; it's crazy. and I have one here in the backyard. I have one in my cabin. And
nice.
And I've been doing all my life. I go to sauna 3 times a week at least, all my life, since I was like 2 years old. My daughter went to sauna first time before she was 1, and she comes with me 3 times a week. My son comes also with me about 3 times a week. So it's a really interesting in a way that that hot, and I'm talking about hot like 200-degree hot, and then the cold after it. So in Finland, what we do, and I'm from the northern Finland, so you have 6 months a year you have ice. So we're either going to go into the snow and you go into the snow after sauna, or then you have a hole in the ice and you're going to dip into the ice. And that is basically, very cold water. It's like 38 degrees. And that is a really, pretty hardcore experience. And when you have done that all your life, I mean, you get used to it. And I try to take a cold and a hot almost every day. And I think it's super powerful.
Yeah, I think it's done wonders for me, actually, in the long run. But yeah, the cold therapy, it's not for everybody, but if you can stand it, it might be worth your time, So,
and maybe the last point if you talk about this topic of like different things, and we already kind of touched about intermittent fasting, and I mean, I think there's a good evidence that it is a good idea, mainly because it will shorten the window when you are eating. And if you have a time window of eating, you will not eat as much. No matter what you eat, you can't eat that many more calories in a time window. So that's a good thing. But then the other point that I think is even more interesting today is the prolonged fasting. Think about 4, 5 days, 7 days. And that is something that I think has a fundamentally similar benefit as you have with the hot and cold therapy. And I decided to go all in into the fasting a long time ago, many years ago. And I do every quarter. I take 5 days of fast, and it really has been a big impact on my life. And it not only helps you physically but also mentally. It kind of calms you down and gives you this sort of a moment to reflect. And I highly recommend people to try. It may sound very difficult not to eat. You can today buy products like a company called Prolon. They are selling a kit of food that you can eat every day for 5 days, and they give you between 1,000 and 500 calories a day, so you don't feel as empty as you would with only water. But many people I know have done it, and they all have really gotten a big benefit. And Prolon has sold this to, I think, almost a million people already.
You think you mentioned earlier that 90% of people have a metabolic illness. Do you think the intermittent fasting was kind of like the hidden little gem there in terms of curing that?
It's one of the things, but I mean, in the end, the cure is very simple. It's just about lowering the intake of carbs and sugar. I mean, sugar is the culprit. I mean, if you still drink the big macchiato latte from Starbucks that has 35 pieces of sugar, or you have a soda every day, you're gonna get sick. I mean, there's no way. Everybody who do that will get sick, 100%. And if you stop doing it, you will likely not get sick. So it's that simple in a way.
So, Ari, we talked about an awful lot here. We're coming up on an hour here. So I just kind of like, because you've done a lot. You've got multiple companies under your belt, and you're still doing more. And you're really kind of changing the game here in a lot of different ways. So at the end of the day, what would you really like to kind of see your impact or whatever your legacy would be, you know, in terms of everything that you're really doing here, because you're touching on a lot of major different um, industries and everything else. What would you like to actually be like the mark that you've left behind on everything here?
I mean, for me, it's just about leaving the place that you entered into better condition when you leave. Like that's how I try to. If I go to a hotel, I go to Airbnb. I try to leave it to a better condition than it was when I when I came
Hmm.
in. And I mean, that's what I try to do. I mean, like try to you have a limited time to do stuff in the world, and I try to do stuff that has an impact and matters to me. And of course, it has to be also fun and enjoyable. And but in the end, what matters the most is that if your mom can be proud about you. I always use the mom proud factor to be the key metric on everything.
That's fair enough. Fair enough. So here's the second part of that, because we've talked about so much, um, and possibly anyone listening to this can't really remember everything that we've said in the course of an hour here. So if you would like to leave people with just one thing and one thing to remember, what would it be?
We talked about the health being, we talked about the physical side of health. We talked about the nutrition and the food. But I think the easiest way for better health, and nothing is easy, but I think the easiest way is to try to focus on sleep and try to go sleep earlier. For me, the big moment was that I'm a small investor in the Aura Ring, the Aura company. It's
Hmm.
available as of I think next week in every Best Buy, for example, in the country. You can buy. There's an own station for Aura, and it's a tracker that gives you an idea how you are recovering after sleep. How did you sleep? And there's no hack. You can have all these things like a cold room, dark room, do the hot shower before sleep, have earplugs, whatever. That all is nice, but the only thing that matters is that if you go sleep at 10:30 at night, you're gonna wake up and you're gonna feel great. If you go sleep at midnight and you wake up early, you're gonna feel crap. So go sleep early. That is the biggest health hack that will always help people.
Truer words. I know I definitely, because I tend to work late, like going to sleep early for me is generally a problem, and because I need time to decompress when I get home, it's usually not the easiest thing in the world for me to just shut down. But I think I'm actually getting better now because we talked about, or maybe we didn't touch on this, but I'm trying to reduce my caffeine intake during the course of the day. So I've start cutting it off at a certain point of the day, like 11 in the morning, and not ingesting it for the rest of the day. And I think in small amounts, that's actually starting to help my sleep. It's helping me to get there quicker. Okay, so Ari, where would people find you to reach out to you if they could?
Yeah, Elo Health, you can find at elo.health, elo.health. And as I talked about the smart supplements, smart protein or recovery product, you can go and buy them today. They are available nationwide, except that New York still can't buy the supplements because we have a challenge with the blood testing with the state of New York. You have to do a local blood test lab. We don't have a local lab there yet. Will be in the future. And you can also follow us at Instagram, elo.health, or other social mediums. And I'm easy to find, Ari Tulla. I think I'm the only one with my name. So if you Google my name, you're going to find many pages.
Gotcha. Well, Ari, thanks so much for your time. It's been a real honor. I've enjoyed talking to you.
All right, thank you. It's been great.
Yeah, it's really great. So, everybody, thanks so much. This is Fitness Reborn podcast. Thanks for tuning in. I'll put information that you can contact Ari in the show notes as normal. So, seek him out if you'd like. And until then, I'll see you next time. Move forever. Peace.